Now, I'll be the first to admit that I'm not the biggest fan of the Cars franchise, but I do love me some Easter eggs, because even when a Pixar movie is bad, they still turn it into a treasure hunt that you can get some enjoyment out of. And while I actually liked Cars 3, I just want to focus on the Easter eggs and references, homages that stood out to me, so let's start out with the big ones that I know you guys want to see. First off, we have A113, which has been in pretty much every Pixar movie, and here it's no exception, appearing outside of Sterling's office store, who's voiced by Nathan Fillion. If you were born when Cars 2 came out and don't know what it means, it represents the CalArts classroom where the top dogs at Pixar went to. Up next is the Pizza Planet truck, or as he's known in this movie, Todd. He pops up twice in the mud racing scene here, as well as getting the pepperoni knocked out of him a little bit later. In that same scene, we see the famous Luxo ball painted on the hood of a car, continuing its Easter egg streak. And last but not least, out of the big ones, is Pixar's Lucky Charm, John Ratzenberger, voicing Mac the Truck, making it the 113th cartoon character he's voiced. Besides those big ones though, Pixar always gives you a little reference to the upcoming movie. Just like in Finding Dory, where they had a Lightning McQueen sticker on the delivery truck driver, Cars 3 has a couple referencing the upcoming film, Coco. In the scene where Cruz Ramirez is training cars, we see a Coco wallpaper showing up on the monitor that shows this exact image of the town that will be appearing in that movie. Later on, there's a second Easter egg for Coco when they go to a bar and the waitress, Sweet Tea, is performing with the guitar from that movie. Even in the Coco short Dante's Lunch, we see my dude sporting some Lightning Sixes, so they're really working on intertwining these worlds. Two other awesome confirmed ones can be found in Sterling's office, such as Cinderella's pumpkin carriage, which I guess would make it the original magical car, as well as the tree from A Bug's Life, which I believe was more on the other side and I couldn't get an image for. Moving on to one of the other standout characters of the film, you have Miss Fritter, who is voiced by Orange is the New Black's Leia Delaria. And she has three references on her big bus driving looking vehicle. The first being her number 58, calling back to the actress's birth year. Another is the street sign reading West Cutting Boulevard, which we previously saw in Andy's room and is meant to reference Pixar's old headquarters, which was located there. But the best one in my opinion, and a standout for you Snow White fans, is the homage the filmmakers confirmed to the classic villain Maleficent with the horns that they added on the bus. Considering I never did a video for the other cars, I'll do a rundown on some of the other ones, like mentioning B&L, which was the big company in WALL-E and they're a sponsor here, Dinoco, which was the gas station we saw way back in the day in Toy Story and is still around as a huge sponsor here, and as we saw from The Good Dinosaur, is also a reference to Arlo with his silhouette, and then you also have the super catchy Triple Dent Gum from Inside Out getting on that ad game during one of the races as well. Outside of Pixar, I liked how they did homages to the beach training scene from Rocky. Knowing how big Apple was to the founding of Pixar, you can see several shoutouts to the company, especially with the Apple car that appears, which also has the number 84, referencing to that classic but eerie Apple commercial. In terms of tributes, I'm glad that they didn't CGI back Paul Newman like that's the trend that's been going on, but instead they went the episode 7 route of scouring through hours and hours of recordings of Newman and using the audio that they found to create flashbacks for his character of Doc Hudson. They also paid tribute to the show Car Talk by having the characters of Dusty and Rusty repeat their catchphrase, "Don't drive like my brother and don't drive like my brother." Other voice cameos come from a bunch of NASCAR drivers like Jeff Gordon as Jeff Gorvette, Darryl Waltrip as Darryl Cartrip, Daniel Suarez as Daniel Suarez, Ryan Blaney as Ryan Inside Laney, Chase Elliott as Chase Racelet, Bubba Wallace as Bubba Wheelhouse, NASCAR reporter Shannon Spakes voices a reporter here who actually holds a press badge that had A113 on it. Mac disguises himself as Jocko Flacco, which, interestingly enough, is a reference to a racing monkey from the 50s who was used to distract opponents when they were about to get passed up. Last but not least though, she's not a race car driver, but she is character actress Margot Martindale, voicing the character of Lois Nash. Now, those were all the Easter eggs that I was able to find, but it doesn't stop there because you still have the Pixar Theory to consider, which, if you don't know, is practically the setup for one of the best cinematic universes that isn't even confirmed yet. All credit goes to the man John Negroni, who covers it extensively, and you should definitely go check out his stuff. But to help me summarize how the Cars franchise fits into it, here's my boy Alex from the Technicality channel.
Howdy! Let's see how Cars 3 fits into the Pixar Theory, which of course is the theory that fits every single Pixar film into the same universe. If you don't know the full theory or need to catch up, click the I to watch a video explaining the whole thing. Anywho, back to Cars 3. In the Pixar Theory, Cars 3 comes a bit after Cars 2. This is pretty logical, but let me explain a bit more. For some context, in the Pixar Theory, right before the Cars franchise is Up, where we see the beginning of By and Large, the company that ends up taking over the world in WALL-E. Note that there's a good 600 years between Cars 2 and WALL-E in the Pixar Theory, so there's plenty of time for Cars 3 to happen before the world turns into a total wasteland. In Cars 1, the super intelligent cars dominate the Earth, and in Cars 2, we are introduced to All in All and the energy crisis. However, remember that at the end of Cars 2, everything kind of turns out okay. The world doesn't end in ruins, and All in All is exposed for the fake it is. This allows B&L to still exist and stay in power, as we see in Cars 3, where B&L is a sponsor. After the Cars series, the world is primed for B&L to turn it into the WALL-E wasteland. In the Pixar Theory, I would place the summer between the years 2100 and 2200, just like the rest of the Cars films. Cars 3 nicely brings home this overarching Cars plotline. We start with Cars 1, setting up Cars' spot in the Pixar Theory, then go to Cars 2, introducing the conflict, and end with Cars 3, life directly after the conflict was solved, but the bigger overarching problem of B&L still exists. And as a final note to end on, just like with every Pixar movie, it's all about growing up. We all evolve, and we all move on to the next step. Pixar shows us through toys, through monsters, through talking animals, and even through cars, that everything comes full circle.
Thank you guys for watching this video. A shout out to my monthly patrons who for just $1 get a weekly shout out on these videos. I'm curious to know what you guys think on the Easter eggs, which ones stood out to you, which ones we missed, and whether you like the movie or not. Make sure to check out Alex's channel. The man's got a lot of energy and spunk, and he'll keep you entertained and up for a bunch of hours. And also make sure to check out the new podcast that I got going on called The Intercut, where we talk even more about movies on a weekly basis and answer your questions. So definitely head on over there, and don't forget that if you subscribe and follow me on Twitter, I will personally drive over a talking Lightning McQueen vehicle and will sign the lease over to you. Until then, keep watching movies, and I'll see you guys later.